Lauren, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
I saw you on a recent podcast, and I think it was a dating something, right? It was like a dating show of some sort. I won't name it, but panel, and you talk about dating, but it showed up because I follow you. I've gone to your yoga classes. They're great. You don't teach yoga. And you mentioned a few things in there that I was really curious about. And I have a lot of I've been training 20 years, mostly female clients. And so one reason I started this podcast is when I started training people together, I noticed clients would share their stories of how they got to where they wanted to go with their goals, health, well-being, whatever it was. They would just share anything. Could even be about kids. And I would see my other clients get way better results, even though I was telling them maybe similar things of how to change things for themselves. But having someone that was similar to them, maybe they also had kids. It's like, you're just a whatever dude, single, and just like, you're trying to tell me change this or that. And eventually it's like, you kind of become like father mode. It's like, he's always telling me shit. And so I thought, what if I started a podcast where I had people share, specifically like began with like clients sharing how they got to where they got. Like, yeah, they train with me, but individually, how you get to where you want to be with health or whatever you're trying to achieve, it's so individual.
It
right?
really is, yeah.
And so sharing your story is, I'm curious, but I think there will be a lot of people who have similar things in their lives that they've maybe experienced. And it's an opportunity to learn from you, right? And take whatever pieces that maybe open them to things that they didn't even potentially consider, right? And so we're going to get into your story.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
So thank you for having me on.
Yes.
My story, it was a lot to go through in my 20s, but when I was 16, I had a child and in a way was forced to give him up for adoption. And then 2 years later, my brother died at the age of 16. So by the time I was 18, 19, I felt like I was completely insane. There was no way for me to be a normal human, completely disconnected from people. I had a really hard time fitting into society because I went through two very traumatic, dramatic things. And the depth of each of them was really intense. So, it's so casual for me to say like, yeah, I gave my kid up for adoption, everything, I grew up in a very religious home and,
When you say that, what do you mean? Like
so
you specifically?
very Christian. Didn't claim to be Christian Baptist, but it felt very much so that way. It felt like I needed to put on an image or be a certain way. And I didn't feel very listened to. I was also very dyslexic as a child. And so I felt a bit of a disconnect that way. And all I knew is that sex is really bad. Don't even ask about it. Don't look at it. Never think about it. And then naturally I was like, oh, what is this? I want to know because no one will talk to me about this. And so, yeah, I had sex at a young age and got pregnant and was essentially locked away for all 9 months, cut off all communication with people, was able to keep one friend. And my parents, they pulled me out of school. I was homeschooled. I was induced 2 weeks early so that whenever I went back to school or whenever my school semester started, I could start the first day. And it was so much to go through because, now I'm in school and I'm not allowed to tell anybody. But the whole process of the adoption was traumatic in itself. There was a moment, I remember whenever I was giving my son up for adoption, sitting in the lobby, and I was sobbing and screaming, like, my baby, I don't want to get rid of my baby. And I took a second and I looked around the room. I looked at the security guard. My lawyer next to me was having me sign these documents, just the random people there. And everybody was sobbing, right? And it was a real validating moment for me. We're like, oh, this is actually sad. because throughout this, my mom, the person I was looking to, kept a very stoic face. Like, this is the right thing to do. This is your only option. You're going to do this. And at the time, like looking back now, I'm like, she was doing the right thing. It was a smart move, very hard for me to go through. And then inducing me 2 weeks early to make my first day of school just a few days after, like giving birth, first day of school in a diaper, you know? Totally what you would consider shell shock, to just can't conversate with anybody my age, can't relate to anybody my age, because I just went through something that, you're telling me about your boyfriend that's all of 16. I can't relate at all. I'm like, I have 6 months to go and revoke these documents or not. And I know the best thing is to not go and revoke them, because it's better for me, and also in a way better for my kid, because who would be raising my kid? It would be me with my dad. The baby's father was sent away to boarding school. His parents were like extremely religious, more in like a Protestant type way. And he was sent away. So it literally just would have been me with my parents. And I didn't necessarily like how I was raised. I felt very much so like cut off from communication. And then during this time, I'm back in high school. I start reconnecting with my brother. And I find out that he started taking LSD at the age of 12.
Wow.
Yeah. And I was a bad kid, so I always was getting in trouble. I wasn't necessarily bad. It goes back to the theme of no one would ever speak to me. So I'm getting bullied at school or picked on. I was pulled out of a private school when I was 13, so started middle school at a public school, first time ever. And totally just isolated by the group of girls I thought were going to be my friends. And no one, as in my parents, wouldn't believe that those people were isolating me. Instead, it was that I wasn't trying hard enough to become their friend, which really was hard. And in that process of me experiencing this, my little brother starts doing LSD, because me and my parents are clashing heads. And I don't find him until, at this point, he's like 14. I get him off everything. And so I get him off everything, right? And I'm a kid. I'm smoking weed. I'm all of like 17, maybe 18. And I'm like, okay, Chris, just smoke weed. Like, you'll be fine. Just do this. And I get him only on weed. My parents find weed in his room, because I got arrested for having weed in my car in Dallas. And they put him in one of those like scare you straight programs. They take away his door and all this stuff. And I'm freaking out. And I can't tell them, hey, I just got my brother off of LSD, off of triple C. So basically taking a ton of Mucinex till you trip. Just like all this type of stuff. I can't go and say that, because I'm over here trying to protect him. And well, the night they let me go and be free again and kind of let him out, he gets hit by a car. And 4 weeks he's in the hospital, and then he dies.
Wow.
And it was a very up close, in my face type of death. Like seeing the blood being pulled out of his head with the suction cup on, sitting there with him, playing music to him as he's twitching and just totally unresponsive. And then once he died, sitting there on the bed with my mom and just petting his eyebrows with my mom, like, because they had to shave off all of his hair. He no longer looked like him, and being like, this is the only thing that feels like Chris. This is the only thing we have left that resembles him. And the day of his funeral, I'm standing there at the coffin. I gave my son up for adoption to my aunt, who couldn't have kids anymore. And I'm standing there. I have my biological son on my hip, my 2 little cousins, and I'm looking at my brother, and I'm like, fuck. I'm never going to, there's my normal before this, it's never going to exist again. And if I crumble, if I break, these 2 little girls next to me, my cousins, they break and he breaks. Everybody breaks. So instead, I had to flip the switch and basically become strong enough to hold up my parents and to hold up my whole family. And then I finally was able to leave to college and figure out, I'm so fucked in the head. Like, what do I do with myself? And it was just so much to go through. Yeah, literally by the time I'm 20, just being in this whole new world. and trying to learn how to navigate and process it. But before my brother died, I would let him smoke in my closet because I was going to get in trouble anyways. I was a pretty good talker. And he had told me that he started to do meditation. He had a lot of anger issues, kind of all did. He started to look into meditation. And so whenever he died, I started to do the same. Looked a little bit into Buddhism and tried LSD. Really liked LSD, had a total spiritual awakening, and went off to college. And the person I got my LSD from fronted me like 100 hits. And he told me, like, okay, go sell this, get the money, and then I'll take the money and we can go from there, right? So I'm going around my college campus just getting everybody this LSD and trying to get them to come to Buddhist courses with me. Yeah. Like, okay, we're Buddhists now, you guys.
Yeah, here we go.
Yeah. And I meet this kid who I sold like 20 hits to, which was crazy and good for me. And I was about to actually go.
What did you sell them for?
Like $10, you know? But it's not that I was even trying to make money off it. I didn't care about the money, right? I was like, oh, I had this amazing spiritual experience. I want everybody to experience it.
Especially if you've gone through what you've gone through. I imagine the contrast of relief is so great. So then you're like, I found something that can save people.
Yeah. And that's how I felt. I felt like I had a glimpse there where I felt normal because this made me work through my things so intensely. And I'm giving it out to people. I was about to get 1,000 hits in because the guy would let me just show up at the bank, deposit it underneath his name. I'm a white girl. I wasn't going to do anything. And he was about to ship me 1,000 hits. Some guy came through. He's already bought 20 hits for me. I was going to sell him the rest. And I'm like microdosed at this point. And he goes, so my friend that bought LSD from you last time, like we took all 20 hits and he started bleeding from the ears. And it was like this total setback to where I was like, I'm selling drugs, And I ran into my bathroom, like held myself in a ball. And the only words that were coming out of my mouth was, this is what killed Chris. This is what killed Chris. And we never knew how he died. We just knew that he was hit in the middle of the road. And I wrote a journal and I called it How to Become a Human. That night, or I talked to my mom on the phone. I was going to leave college, go back home. I didn't know what to do. I was so paranoid, so freaked out by the whole experience. And wrote myself like all the way hour to hour. Like you wake up, you make your bed, you go to yoga, you study this, you work out, followed that and just changed my course of my life forever. Started teaching yoga, taught yoga for 8 years.
How did you find yoga? Like, what was you just saw a yoga class? Like, what?
When I was in college, like, I would say, so my brother died in like January 2013, and I took a college course in that summer, like May of 2013, and one of my electives was to do yoga. And I did it, and it was the first time in a long time where I started to feel a little bit of peace. So I had that with the combination of my brother saying like, oh, try Buddhism. And so once I had this total meltdown, breakdown, call it like my bottom of the bathroom floor moment, I was like, okay, I'm going to pick yoga back up again and see if I can find that peace that I found for a second, like many years ago. And I was able to realize through movement and breath and just really, it was so challenging for me because I did volleyball, but I didn't do anything that was similar to yoga. And I would do hours of it. And through that movement and learning and finding ways to control my breath, I was like, okay, I can start to calm my mind down a little bit. I can start to feel a little bit normal. But I had I never wanted to admit to myself that I had PTSD. I had like no real guidance whatsoever because I was like, if I tell myself I have PTSD, then I'm trapped there forever.
I mean, how do you even, like being that young, even like, how would you even know to even think about that? Like, how do you even like, I have PTSD? Like, I imagine, I mean, that's a really good, like, reflection, but it's like when you have so much stuff happen when you're so young and you're dysregulated, it's like sometimes not until later do you realize and reflect like 10 years later, like, oh, maybe all these problems I keep causing or this chaos is now I have PTSD. So it's like a pretty soon reflection.
Well, so it wasn't that reflection. I didn't call it PTSD then.
You're like, something's off.
I said I would call it looping. Like I'm constantly looping. Like, how can I stop this loop? And it would be a loop of I would see a baby hand, me screaming in the lobby. My brother with the cone in the head, his eyes after he died, the eyebrows, and then the coffin. That was my loop. And those memories would play in a circle, always in my head. And it was like I couldn't get them to pause, freeze, or stop. And it made conversation really hard with people. I couldn't go out and just meet friends because I felt like, first of all, I'm hiding all this from you. The couple of times I tried to share it to people, it was like, oh, that was heavy. Because they're my age. They've never heard anything like it. So the only people I can really relate to are in their 30s.
Yeah, people like their grandparent maybe died.
Yeah.
Like they can't relate to any of the emotional intensity that you've had.
Yeah.
And it grew you up really fast too. So your state of mind as an individual, like, can't even really relate to probably what people are even going through around you. So how are you going to, it's like you went to war.
Yeah.
And you're like going to share with people at the office about this stuff. You're like, I'm just not going to share.
And it's like, once you do share, what's their response?
Then they're just like, oh no.
Yeah. Either they say, oh no, or they say, I'm sorry, or they walk away from you because they're like, I don't want to deal with that.
Yeah.
That was the hardest part. So mostly I just didn't tell anybody. And
which makes sense.
Yeah. And I started doing yoga, and I was like, I also learned how to recognize this in people, like when someone's going through something really bad. And like from being a yoga instructor and seeing people in there for like 4-8 hours a day, I'm like, oh, that person's like trying to block something out, and they found that this is the only way to really do it. And my yoga training wasn't normal either. I did like Rajanika yoga training.
What is that?
So each movement in yoga, like, you hear like warrior 1 or warrior 2, it's all based off the story. This one was specifically centered around the Bhagavad Gita, and also like some off-branched stories. Like you have like Kali and like these other like gods.
Like more Hindu inspired?
Very Hindu, yeah. So I mean, that's kind of where yoga originates. So I got really deep into, I went from Buddhism, left that because, well, in this whole process of selling the LSD and everything, one of my Buddhist teachers said, oh, we don't like that lineage, so we don't associate with them. And I was like, oh, I'm out. It's the same as like the Christians against the Baptists, against the non-denominationals, or whatever you'd want it to be. And then once I got deep into yoga, I started hardcore studying Hinduism. Yeah. And it was really through that Rajanika yoga, but my yoga instructor was like very unhinged. Like I kept on hearing about how people had this whole like peaceful experience in their teacher training. I was like, oh yeah, my teacher would like scream at me and have people stand around me until my toes were pointed the right direction. And, would tell us these crazy stories, would just go off on the rails. And he was obsessed with this one like Hindu goddess demon named Kali, which is like the goddess of war. And so then I became obsessed with it. And his specialty was backbending. And I thought he hated me because he was like particularly mean to me. And then it wasn't until like after I left the training and he was going to a different yoga studio that I learned like, oh no, he was just training me up to be like one of his I don't know a way to put it, but it was me and this other girl.
It's like your star athlete.
Yeah.
You're trying to, you're pushing them to their limits so they're trained.
Right. And so we would go to seminars with him and do crazy backbends and crazy shit.
Well, like what would be a crazy backbend?
Like Pinchamaru. I can't even say it anymore, but like a forearm stand with your feet in your face.
Whoa.
Right? Like just like crazy stuff like that. Yeah. Or like taking your camel pose with going all the way back with, again, your face in between your feet.
Wow.
Like real crazy stuff like along those lines. It just makes them look good, And it's also like we were super into like being a part of his following. It was kind of like culty until it wasn't.
Yeah, the thing with yoga is you have like the base and then you have sex of like people who turn it into something so intense. Like I did a teacher training in India, and it was more, they taught like Ashtanga, 8 limbs, and then it was Hatha and then Raja or whatever. But it was so rigid. Like they would get pissed if we didn't go to the thing where you like chant in front of the fire. It's like eternal for like 108 times. And I always rebelled from structure, like in school. And it just put a bad taste in my mouth with that. And that's actually like why I kind of like what Western society has done with yoga. It's kind of freed it a little bit more. So it can just become more of whatever you want it to be.
Yeah.
Just let it be that moving meditation. Let it be to open up the body, move energy, be healthy, instead of, it can get like on these different, that's wrong, this is right, this is like so extreme.
That's how I used to be. I used to be so dogmatic, like psychotic with it. And
but I get it. You're like you're finding something that's giving you relief. And then so you take everything else, even if it's not good, that like this is part of the thing that's helping me. And so I'm going to preach it, and this is the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah. And the way my teacher taught was there's a right and a wrong way. And he would go and like yell at people in his class.
Really?
But I love chaos. Like I love like fiery, like uncontrollable people.
Yeah.
So watching that from him, it like actually was like, it made, I liked it. It's like what drew me to him is his chaos. But eventually like that type of personality pushes everybody away too. And then I basically, I got bored with my like Iyengar vinyasa style and started doing more Bikram. I was teaching at a Bikram studio and got really into my contortionist backbending. I was about to go and do more acrobatics and kind of like join the circus. I had a student named Benji, and he was like, how about you try jujitsu first? And then I found 10th Planet next to, or we were inside of On It then, and kind of just...
How long ago was that?
That was 7 years. Now I'm a purple belt.
Cool.
Yeah. And 7 years ago, found jujitsu, and it just completely changed my life from like the physical touch and community aspect. Because if we think back at like what I was, it's like totally isolated because I had these 2 very traumatic events happen, and then go into something with yoga, but doing it in the most psychotic, intense way, like hours of chanting, hours of breath, hours of movement. And I would do like animal flows and stuff like that, but just insane amounts of time and discipline with it. And then going to something like jujitsu where it's so flowy, but it incorporates all those things as well. But you're fighting with someone and you're touching them. And it would be like, this is the only time I've touched a person in years, it felt like, It was so different.
Yeah, it's interesting. I haven't done it a ton, but there is like a interesting release of chemicals in your brain being like, even if it's like guys and guys, it's like there is this interesting, like, you remember as a kid that feeling of play, that closeness when you like tumble with your friends and whatnot. And I think you also get this release because you can do it at such a high intensity, where a lot of things you can't do at that, like, because you're literally fighting to, like, if you're potentially about to get choked out, like, there's no, like, even if you're trying to squat 1,000 pounds, like, that's like, it's like such an insane intensity with another human being.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, you're literally trying to kill each other and break each other's limbs. And so then you have to like master, like at first you don't. It's like the white belt lesson is mastering your ego in a way from, do I let this guy break my leg? Which we've all, like, once you've been in it, you all do. You're like, oh, yeah, I can get out of this. You just let him broke your leg. Or do I, like, get over myself and just let them have the submission? Like that's a big deal. I would say the hardest thing to go past in jiu-jitsu. But also, for me, my biggest thing is like, okay, I like this. I'm into it. But I started to notice that I was there in a way just to like hurt myself. almost how someone's bulimic, right?
Cuts themselves or whatever.
Yeah, and it was like I had this pain inside that like I was managing, was keeping myself afloat.
What did you do?
With yoga,
Okay, yoga.
And then moved over to jujitsu, and I felt myself no longer keeping myself afloat, right? And it became a lot more of like I almost wanted to get hurt, in a weird, sick way, to know that I could fight through the pain. And that's kind of like what I had grown accustomed to, was being in pain and fighting through pain and
very David Goggins.
Pain. Yeah.
In the sense, like, he had all those horrible things happen as a kid and then started going towards pain as a way of relieving that kind of chaos.
And it's the worst way. It's not how you want to live. It's not.
I feel like you can tell me, but like with Goggins, great, but it needs to be transmuted. It's like, it's a step, right? But I think there's like, you actually have to kind of heal it and do some other things.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. You have to realize that's what you're doing in the first place. And I didn't realize that. I did a ayahuasca ceremony. And
how did you find yourself there? How did that happen?
So I was teaching yoga in San Marcos, and I had a tattoo artist named Daniel do like a small little tattoo. I went to his studio, did a small one. And I started jujitsu, and I wanted to get like the snake on my arm because my nickname was Baby Cobra. And Cobra
That's a cool
pose,
nickname, yeah.
It was fine, right? Yeah. Cobra pose, it's a back bend, right? And I was always kind of in my little community. It was always older women too. I was way younger than everybody else by like 20 years. And anything you could tell me as in, okay, figure out this pose, I could figure it out in 1 week. And like, oh, it's Baby Cobra, like she's figuring her shit out or whatever. I don't know how to explain it. But so my nickname was Baby Cobra, but I had studied Hinduism and Buddhism, and outside of both Hindu and Buddhist churches or temples, there's a Naga, right? And a Naga is a half human, half snake being. And basically the story is that these Nagas were on Earth, they were killing the humans. Vishnu came up to them and was like, look, I can either kill you or we can come up with a deal where you guard the temples. So they're a real big symbol in Buddhism and Hinduism. And then snakes also were my biggest fear ever, until one day I came home and I saw my biological son holding a snake. And I was like, well, if he's holding it, like, I have to hold it. I can't let him conquer something above me. And went and picked it up and became cool with snakes and obsessed with them after that.
Wow.
And then there's this tournament in jiu-jitsu. It's called NAGA. It's like National Grappling Association or North America Grappling Association. So it's like, okay, all these things are tying in with the snake, the snakes.
Symbolism everywhere.
Yeah, and snakes in all the religion. So Daniel's putting this snake on my arm, and his wife at the time, she was studying to become a shaman. And they invited me to a ceremony, and I didn't do it for many years. I just kind of took the contact and put it in my back pocket. And I was like, you know what, I'm going to try DMT. So I got a little pen, and I started to leave my body at one point. And I had the weirdest reactions. You don't know what you're going to do with this. And I just started saying like, Chris, like my brother's name, and pulling myself back in my body, which I didn't think I was going to do that, right? And then I started doing handstands because I was like, you have to be really present to do handstands. And I just wouldn't let myself leave. And I'm sitting there and I start like taunting like the quote unquote DMT entities. And I'm like
taunting them?
It was weird. I don't even know why I was doing this too. And I was like, you can't take me from my body. Like, I'm stronger than you. Like, no, I'm putting myself back in. And then everything went black. And they're like, okay, you're done. Go see Tiffany, which was her name. Go see Tiffany. Go to a ceremony. Goodbye. Right? Like, you're annoying. Is essentially what
they
told
said
me.
They said
like,
that.
Yeah, you're annoying. You need to go do this. Goodbye. Don't even try. If you try to smoke, this thing's going to happen. And I didn't want to. I was too freaked out at that. And then I reached out and I did a ceremony. And it was just unlike anything I ever expect. You think, I hear these stories from figures like Aubrey Marcus, like, oh, I'm going to be a jaguar or blah, blah,
You have
blah.
no idea.
No clue.
And it can be different every time.
Oh, for sure. And so my first time I'm in there, and immediately it starts taunting me, and it's like, "Oh, I'm so strong. Like, you're so much stronger than me, huh?" And I'm like, "Oh God, like no."
Handstands.
Yeah. And then I'm in a jujitsu tournament, right? And so it goes from that straight to a jujitsu tournament against this shadow figure, and it's like 10 p.m. I'm at the gym. The gym's empty, and it starts rolling with me. I do the little fist bump. And it, like, immediately passes my guard, and I'm like, "Oh, shit, this is a black belt," right? And once it passes, I realize I have these 2 rotting dead bodies on me, right? And I had to go through both of them, which were, like, the death of my brother, right? And the losing of my son to then be covered in maggots and realizing, like, "Okay, but what do I do with myself from here?" Just kind of starting to pull that off of me. But yeah, I found it through my tattoo artist. It felt very like esoteric how I found it too, because my ceremony ended up being all about like Judaism and really, like, I saw the first night, Jesus sitting across from Mary Magdalene, and it just totally freaked me out because, again, like I said, I'm gonna be a jaguar, and then I'm seeing this, which wasn't anything that I ever had planned to see or experience, and it was way like, again, back to those stories you hear, oh, so beautiful and awesome. Like, no, it was so painful. I had to go through all of this pain all over again and relive all of those experiences and kind of see like how I got to this place and how like you can do anything toxic, right? Like you could probably even lift and run and like again goes back to David Goggins, right? Like taking a healthy thing and turning it into like a really unhealthy thing. And that's kind of like when I realized like I'm doing jujitsu really unhealthy. Yeah.
How many ceremonies did you do?
So it was 3 ceremonies over a weekend. And I left like all these things I need to do, like had a whole list, et cetera, but I didn't have any integration, which was a really bad thing for me as someone that went in there with actual stuff that I wasn't processing or looking at to leave. I tried talk therapy after that for a second, which now looking back with everything I know was the worst thing because the loop started again.
Really?
Intense
It's like
looping.
re-traumatizing yourself?
Because I was talking about it all the time. And I hadn't processed any of it, but it was right here on the surface. Didn't know what to do with it.
That's so much.
Yeah, it was too much. And basically entered a relationship that I shouldn't have. Kind of really leaning on someone who's very, who has a lot of empathy, right? And yeah, definitely shouldn't have leaned on that relationship, should have had integration, but that ended up at a place like Kuya that is an integration center. And in a way had to figure it out for myself and get back to movement and doing things in a healthy way. But man, yeah, it was a lot to go through.
So how did you start to help yourself integrate?
I mean, from there,
Like what worked for you?
what worked for me, so it really took me a year after that to figure out everything that works and everything to do. And my biggest thing was getting out and talking. I had to go and tell all these people who were my close friends, this had happened to me because no one actually knew who I was, which is still a problem I feel like I have a little bit nowadays. That's why I wanted to do something like this because it's like, man, I'd much rather free myself, right? Than forever feel like I'm holding on to this really intense story and instead just let it out. And, the worst thing I've always thought people are going to do, like, oh, no one's going to want to be with me. No one's going to be my friend. Like all these narratives I've built around it. Like I would love to just take it set it off, and then get on and live my life. And that's kind of the biggest quote unquote integration thing that I did, was trying to get out and tell people a little bit about it. But also I got really big into biohacking and health. But I've always been into that because I knew they were things that helped with both PTSD and depression. So if I could find a way to do all the tools, maybe I could just get it to go away, right? But now I'm kind of at this point in my life, like my good friend that I met at that ceremony, he's about to go do an Ibogaine session. And that's what I'm leaning towards now too. Like I feel very normal and grounded. Like a lot of a congratulation I give to myself. I'm like, oh my God, like I did it. I became normal. But there's a big difference that you get in all the different types of psychedelics, right? And so with things like you could look at LSD, mushrooms, or even ayahuasca, right? It's like very internal and spiritual. You'll see God, etc. But the book, the body keeps the score. It's true. So all that stuff, like there's still nervous system reactions that I get towards things that in a way hold me back, like very deeply internal feelings that I have that are leading me more towards, okay, let's go figure out the Ibogaine type stuff. But
so I got a lot to say. Ayahuasca is generally, I would not recommend it for most people unless you come to me and you're like, I really got to do it. I think it's inappropriate for most circumstances and can cause potentially a lot more harm than good. I will definitely do it a bunch more times, but it is more of an exploration of like almost different levels of consciousness and dimensions, and like it opens a whole different reality, like a spirit realm, all kinds of stuff that is unnecessary if you're just trying to work through trauma. And it's like getting shot out of a cannon. And I don't think a lot of people need to, like one time in a ceremony, it felt like I was riding a bull. It was like, I was laughing, crying. I was like up and down. They had to come over and tell me to sit down because it was like, I was literally riding a bull. It was kind of cool, but it was like, it was fucking crazy. I was going up and down. I was like, holy fuck, this thing's trying to buck me. But it's like, after a lot of those ceremonies, I did a traditional, I did hybrid. It's like the integration isn't really there in a lot of that's offered right now. And that is such a huge piece that needs to be there. And so I heard that Rogan episode with what's his name? And when I actually even interviewed a guy about Ibogaine one time, but it never really clicked, didn't really make sense. And it always seemed like the way he described it was, it's just really brutal for 12 hours.
Yeah.
And it's considered grandfather. And I was like, that sounds, if ayahuasca's grandmother, then I don't want to meet grandfather. No, he's going to beat my ass. But then hearing the like physiological changes that happen with it, like the rewiring of the dopamine system, I'm like, oh, I definitely need that. Yeah. And I interviewed my friend who introduced me originally to it. She like it's like a past episode, but her mom went through Parkinson's, had to like go through taking care of her and whatnot. And she explained her process of going through it. And it just seemed just to resonate so much more. And I interviewed the people who own Beyond, Talia, and how they're doing it there is amazing. It's like they do several EKGs, they interview you, they have like doctors on staff, nurses on staff, they let you work out, they have like cold plunge, like they have group therapy, individual therapy. It's like, and also way it's described is if you open your eyes, you're not in it.
Yeah.
It's fuzzy and you can't really walk, but you have to really work with it. And the way my friend described it was, it's like I was having a conversation with my higher self. It was like I was sitting there just like having this conversation back and forth, not like all of a sudden you're jujitsuing with a fucking demon and then like that's
and
like,
how do I process this?
And you could have so many things coming at you with ayahuasca that's just like, Whoa.
Oh, yeah, like, it told me I saw this whole past life thing where I'm a Jewish kid dying in the Holocaust, and it's like, cool,
Yeah.
but also, it'd be great to be grounded, like, this is great to see, but goes back to the practical application of this.
And Ibogaine, it seems, not only just the rewiring of the dopamine serotonin system, which is incredible, that the neuroplasticity lasts the longest out of any psychedelic. I think it's up to 2 months, where most, like mushrooms, a few days, up to like maybe a week. So to have that ability with so much space, so supported in like a blend of Western and traditional, because Talia said that, her husband started this place for her because she did a bunch of iboga, like like it's like it's kind of chaotic.
Iboga is what is actually Ibogaine's from.
Yeah, it's like so, but it's like you get all of it, and it's intense, and it's set up like maybe the ceremonies she went to are like not supported, and it's just like was great, but also kind of messed you up. Like you, it's like I dealt with it, but then I'm kind of worse off. Like what do I do? I'm on my own. So I've been telling everybody on this podcast too. I was like, that's my goal. Yeah. Like it seems like the thing, if you really want to process things, but also from ceremonies, it's like you have to have all your tools set up before and after, right? And sometimes it takes doing ceremonies to realize all that. It's like no medicine's gonna like just fix you.
Yeah.
It's the thing that like if you're getting everything in alignment, you're meditating or whatever your practices are to regulate yourself and go in and process, or just talking and sharing. But doing that and then going like sharing it more, it's like it's just part of it.
Yeah.
That's exciting. Do you have that idea of when you...
So I was going to go to Beyond, right? It's pricey. That's the only downside about Ibogaine. It's about like a $10,000 program to do it. And I was aiming for around December. So like I said earlier, my friend is going to do it and he's going to kind of be like our guinea pig. And then I imagine around December, I'll go in there and do it. And I'll have an understanding too. And it goes back to the idea of also like, then I can guide people, right? Because you can ask me what I did to kind of move through all the stuff that I moved through. And a lot of it was just, here's everything that you can do to get over things. I'm going to do all of it. I mean, from every type of meditation, acupuncture, EMDR, like breathworks. You have people scream. I tried the screaming thing with groups of people. Yeah, it didn't really do much, It still felt the same. That was everything I tried. But psychedelics, like they work from the sense of they make you face yourself. But I agree with you whenever you say that ayahuasca is not for everybody because, we look at people who've been deeply traumatized, like have a lot of real stuff. And your brain has this mechanism and in a way your body, which it's both good and bad, where it builds these walls for you and kind of traps this information and creates these habits. And once those are unleashed, if you don't have the proper things in place, because now you're just like a spiraling human who's like regurgitating all of these things. That are ready to be processed, but you have no way to process them, no real knowledge. Or you have these people that abuse it, and at first they're like, oh, I lost my ego, and then they turn into insane narcissists.
Oh, I have so many crazy stories. I got this like friend who I met in Seattle, her and her husband, like his boss was like a super rich tech dude, moved to Peru, opened some center. They moved down there. Then they're doing it all the time. And then it was like this traumatic story of them trying to escape. And like, because they start twisting, like if you're in that state, it's like, it's not, yeah. So that's the other thing is to find a legit place, like for a normal person, how would they even know?
Yeah.
Like you'd have to kind of be in that world and have done a lot of research to know, like I can sniff out like, yeah, don't do that. Or like, that's probably pretty good.
Yeah. I got really lucky by meeting someone very legit. It's like you have to go on multiple phone calls. You have to fill out a whole questionnaire. They ask you about everybody in your family. Just like if you were to do anything, like get a prescription, they treated it the same way.
Yeah, that's good.
To vet you like crazy. And then, okay, you're allowed in.
Yeah, when I was in one ceremony, there was a guy who was in Iraq and he was a vet. And he was an amazing guy, but he would, at night, he would tell me stories afterwards.
Yeah.
And he would just share and share. And like one night he finally like never made any noises. And then one night it sounded like he literally just had thrown up all of his internal organs. And I remember the Mastero afterwards was like, for that kind of thing, you need to come to the jungle and be there for like a month. You need like, that is, and that's an appropriate thing. Like, it's like that needs, but you need somebody to be able to tell you those things, not just like off you go. It's like, you need the person to be able to recognize like, okay, you need deeper healing and actually know what to do with you, not, all right, off you go.
Like, yeah, goodbye. And it's also probably the, like, yeah, I went to someone really legit that cares and everything. But what does that person do, right? Like, you go in, like, you've met these people, like, I didn't even mention, until I'm sitting there with him before the ceremony, like, oh, yeah, well, I had a kid and gave him up for adoption. My brother died, but I really think I'm over it. That's what I said to him. And he was like, like, okay, no, you're not, right? But what does he do before when somebody tells him this? Whenever you have this 3-day retreat, right? So it's like the whole, again, goes back, the whole system needs to be rewrote. The whole thing needs to be redone for like people working through things.
That's why I'm so excited for places like Beyond and more of them to come. 'Cause it's kind of like a potential model for just everybody to go to if they're also doing the other work. It seems supportive. But that's also why I want to go through, because like you, I want to be able to guide people to like where, like you wouldn't know to not guide people to that versus this if you never went through it. And I think sometimes maybe this annoys people like you that have gone through stuff. It's like, I think when people have like struggled with health or had horrible things happen, sometimes it's awful and they never recover from it. But I think there's an opportunity to work and heal yourself because you become a guide for other people. And one person told me, which if it's true or not, but it's a nice thing to believe. It's like, you're never given anything you can't handle, which can be an annoying thing sometimes to hear. But I think like with someone like you, in a year or two, and you've gone through, it's like the people that you can, since you can recognize it and then guide them, that's invaluable, because where are those people? They're not going to go to a doctor. Like, even if a person's trained on trauma and all that, unless they've been through it, they don't know what the fuck they're talking about.
It's so true.
Right? Like, no matter what, I could be trained on all the things about how to help people, but if you haven't been through shit, you don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, and that was my hardest thing, and probably why I started from being a child hanging out with and dating guys significantly older than me.
Yeah.
Because
Couldn't relate.
I can't relate at all. If your grandma died, like maybe if you started a business and then lost the business, cried yourself to sleep every night.
Couldn't get in your college you wanted to get into.
Or like, I needed someone with adult problems. Like, my whole house is refinanced. My dad died of cancer. Like, oh great, I can get along with you.
That's so funny. I used to say, I would tell my sister, I was like, I can never, like, girls that like their whole lives together, like my nervous system gets weird.
Yeah.
Like I can't handle it. It's like, it's too happy. I don't know what's going on. I don't know. I can't relate to any of this.
So my ex, he really hadn't had any issues at all, right? And it was so hard to relate to him after a while, and created a huge, big burden of separation. But also, whenever we would fight, or especially towards the end of the relationship, he started using it against me. He started saying like, oh, you just say this because like how would he say it? I know one time he was trying to make me cry, right? Because I won't cry if you want me to cry. And he goes, like, you have a fucked up relationship with your brother's death, and starts talking about my brother's death to me and how like fucked up it is, or whatever it is, my thoughts and feelings about it. And would also do that about like the fact that I had a kid, to say that like, oh, I play such the victim role in it and I won't take responsibility for it. Right? But there you go. That's someone that's never gone through anything in their life, because I never would imagine anybody ever saying that to me.
That's a horrible thing to say.
Yeah. Yeah, it was horrible, and it was also like, okay, well, this is a great testament to like, we're never ever getting back. It's almost like God was saying that to me as like, oh, this, you're never gonna ever consider this,
That's wild.
Yeah.
One thing I want to say about the ibogaine thing real quick is it is expensive, and I was thinking about that too. But I think in some ways that's a good thing because it makes you have to really work and value it a little more, you know? If it was like $2,000. And so I think it'll just happen for you.
Well, the thing is that, like, I feel like I've overcome and accomplished so many things. Like, what is $10,000? Yeah, I know it sounds like that's a lot of money, right? But it's also like, I can just get a loan and pay $1,000 every single month and then be over with it in 10 months. You know, if that's what I wanted to do. Like, what is $10,000 worth if, like, I have to suffer any longer? It's, nothing.
It's super, yeah. It's like, I think psychedelics and all this stuff is like a missing piece of being a human being that's just like an essential thing like water. And I think it's just an important thing to do because I don't know about you, but I imagine you've seen people who've experienced really bad things. They've worked on them, but they've never quite really healed them. And then maybe a couple horrible things down the road happen and it all comes back plus more and they get taken down by life. And like, I've seen that. And that's like one of my personal reasons for wanting to go. It's like, I don't want to go down like that. Like people I've seen like that. Right. That was a fun conversation.
I know, it's kind of like that last podcast I did was my first one ever. And so I was like, oh, feeling a lot different, like sweating, like, oh, it's a different type of conversation having camera.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So it was a lot different. Yeah. But it was fun. It was good to have. Yeah, it was funny too. Like, I made my decision to do ibogaine in the past couple of days. And it wasn't even anything like to lead up to this. It was just like sitting there and talking to my friend Keegan, and I'm always the guinea pig because I'm like, okay, let's go and try this or do this or whatever. Like, I'll figure it out first because I'm kind of at the point where like, nothing's really going to break me. Like, I feel if I would have had the psychological break, it would have happened years ago.
Totally.
Yeah. So
it would have happened in ayahuasca.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so I've always kind of been the guinea pig in a way for these things. And the fact that he's doing it before me and has convinced me, it's like, okay, well, we'll see how this goes, if it's going to be fucking terrifying or what. But your friend was saying that the 12 hours were intense.
No, so I always heard it was intense, really intense.
Yeah.
And like painful. But she was like, it was literally just pure light awesomeness the entire time. And the way they do it is, I think you do that, then you do 1 to maybe 2 like booster doses.
Interesting. Okay.
And then if you want, they can just like seal the deal if you want to with DMT.
Oh, dang.
Just to like, sometimes that just helps. Some people kind of stay low because there's like this, I don't know, there's a term for it, but like the next day you're like really kind of like sad because I think
you've experienced all this stuff that you've not experienced.
And I think it's probably part of the process of like your dopamine system resetting. It's like, it's low and it's just resetting, right? Just like if you do MDMA, the next day you're kind of like a little down, but an extreme version of it. So yeah, she's like, she did that to like kind of finish it off. But she said it was like having just a conversation with her higher self.
Yeah.
If you go like, Beyond has a podcast and she interviews, every time people do stuff, she interviews them. So you can go listen to. There's a girl that just did one the other day, was a yoga instructor. She didn't really have anything too much happen. So she explained her situation, but there's tons of stories on there and their experiences.
Yeah.
And that's same with, I can never remember the guy who sounds like a Civil War reenactor with the beard.
I know who you're talking about. Yes. Yeah.
He's got the best voice in the way he speaks. It's so amazing.
He's very Kentucky. Almost.
Yeah. It's just, I feel like I got to stand up with my American flag. He was describing like, just go, like when you open your eyes, it's kind of gone. So it's like you can kind of pull yourself in, pull yourself out. And it's like you're more working with it, where ayahuasca, you're just like, it's full surrender. If you don't surrender, you're going to get tossed. You got to keep surrendering, keep surrendering, keep surrendering. It's like, if you don't, you fight it, then you get more turmoil potentially. If people want to reach out to you, they want to like hear more about your story.
Yeah.
They want to connect with you, or they want to learn about doing jiu-jitsu as a woman. I know I had a couple clients interested, like, what's that like?
Mm-hmm.
Which is what I wanted to talk to you also as well, more deeper, like what that's like,
Yeah.
what you think women get from the benefit of it and all that experience. Because I think more women just don't know,
Mm-hmm.
like, even how to approach it, or like, it's just a bunch of dudes. Like, there's a lot.
Yeah, I mean, it is a lot of dudes for sure. But the relationships you build with people there are unlike any other relationship because, you're physically on top of them. So you have to learn how to trust. Like the relationships you get with the guys there. I mean, you hear horror stories for sure. You hear them and everything. But the fact like you're 250 pounds and I'm like 120 and you're not killing me when you could. And, that day you submit someone that is the 220 pounder, just all that deeper relationships, more confidence too. Walking down 6th Street at midnight, if you end up there, knowing that you at least know how to get away. That's a big piece of it.
And a part of just not becoming a victim is giving off energy that I'm not a victim.
It is. It's standing there.
It's like a huge piece of it. If you have that energy of I'm scared, like that's what people pick up on.
For sure.
That's like one of the main ways is like, oh, like it's even just primal. It's like, it's not even a conscious thought.
Yeah, walking, you learn how to hold yourself better too. I mean, I think jiu-jitsu is great for women. I think almost everybody should do it. But in my opinion, everybody that does jiu-jitsu has a little bit of a story, a little bit of something going on. Like if you're trying to kill somebody, then there's a part of yourself that you're trying to kill, or a memory you're trying to kill, or something along those lines. That's why I really like the group of people, the MMA people, the jiu-jitsu people, the fighters out there, even like veterans, my favorite type of people, because again, it goes back to like they've actually been through something and it's just easier to connect to them. But you build relationships with people really quick. Like if you're a woman, you go into jiu-jitsu, maybe you don't have a huge community, or even if you're a man, your first day there, it's like, okay, we're going in a full guard, which you're like essentially like straddling someone between your legs. It's like very intimate, but also like now you know them really well. Like now you have a whole group of friends. And so I think the community aspect's a big piece of it.
Where do people connect with you?
Connecting with me. So I would actually just follow me on my Instagram or reach out to me at Lauren_Burr, BUR. That's probably the best way. Or my email is lburandt, BURANDT 2@gmail. Yeah, that's the easiest way.
Awesome. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you.